So, species pass down their genes to their offspring, and they do this with the hopes that their offspring will survive, mature, and create even more offspring. But some genes are better than others to help an organism survive. And this is basically what natural selection is about. We usually call natural selection survival of the fittest because genes that give an organism more of an advantage in their environment allow the organism to survive and reproduce, so their genes are able to pass on. But organisms without that gene, with the gene that doesn't allow them to survive, are not able to reproduce, so their genes won't be passed on. The classic example of this are Darwin's finches. So Darwin's finches, you have one type of bird, one bird species that basically went to the Galapagos Islands and they were tracked over time. And that one species of bird basically adapted to two different types of bird species. One that had spiky beaks, and another that had wide beaks. And one of these beaks allowed the finch to have basically be more able to eat seeds and nuts, while the other allowed them to eat fruits. So why did this happen? Well, the finches without very distinct pointy beaks or wide beaks, they weren't able to successfully eat the food on the island, so they died. So they weren't able to give birth to more finches. But the finch is more likely to have either a super spiky beak or super wide and thick beak. We're more likely to pass the genes on to other finches. So over time, the beaks with the best ability to eat had more success in reproducing until the entire population of birds either had this type of beak or this type of beak. So organisms are usually separated into what we call a taxonomic rank, which contains levels to separate organisms based on different characteristics. So there are 7 main levels: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And you start with the kingdom, which is the most broad, and you get more and more and more specific until you get to species. And further down you go, like the more closely related the organisms are, right? And because it goes from broad to specific, if you have two organisms who are in the same class, for instance, they are in the same kingdom and phylum. But you can have two organisms in the same class, but they're not in the same genus. So the main example for this is if you compare a human and a chimpanzee. So both humans and chimpanzees are in the same family, the Hominidae. So they have the same order, class, phylum, and kingdom, but they're different species and genus. So humans are Homo sapiens, that's their genus and species, and chimpanzees are pan-troglodytes, right? So even though everything else here is the same, and because they're both hominidae and everything here is the same, they have different genus and species.